So Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to put together an amendment for the latest spending bill that was going to address the fact that we were supposedly going to cut $500 million from additional weapons to be sent over to Israel. And this is what she had to say about this amendment that she was putting in there to help us reduce our spending to Israel.
As the House considers the defense appropriation bill today that costs the American people $831 billion, it's important to talk about that this is the funding for our great men and women serving in our military and our nation's defense. The Department of Defense's mission statement is to deter war and ensure our nation's security, and that is worthy of the American people's hard-earned tax dollars. However, the American people are $37 trillion in debt. So this is money that is being spent that they already don't have.
Even if we agree with the premise of what she's trying to do here, which is reduce the stranglehold of the Israel lobby on our political and economic discourse, they are still running with the 37 trillion in debt myth because they don't want to tell the truth about how money is created and spent into existence versus a deficit. Now, if you want to talk about deficit spending, that's a different story. But if you're going to talk about debt and make it seem like we can't possibly get out of it, I think talking like this is that's where you lose people that you could otherwise be gaining.
I don't know about that one way or the other. I'm still sitting here just completely, I'm not surprised anymore, but it's just life is disappointing when the person that is leading the one thing that you agree with is this person. And the fact that it's her, Massey, and a few Democrats. Is that what it was? It was like Summer Lee, Rashida Tlaib,
and Al Green.
Al Green. Great. And, all of that is it's just pathetic. It's pathetic. And it really doesn't cease to amaze me, I guess, that I'm sitting here and this is the person who's making the most sense out of everybody. We've come a long way.
Yeah, but we've said for the longest time that it's always going to be the populist right that's going to get shit done because the populist left will fight, but they will only fight so hard.
Well, wait a minute. That's because there is no populist left. There is no populist left in that governing body.
There was when Bernie ran the first time in 2016. There was a real movement that was happening.
That wasn't in that governing party. In this governing body right here, there is not an actual populist left person. There just isn't. They don't exist in this party. So,
let's hear what else she has to say.
My amendment would strike $500 million in funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense system. And it's important to phrase it that way. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation, which is very capable of defending themselves, and they have been proving that so as we've watched on the world stage. The U.S. already provides Israel with $3.8 billion annually in foreign aid. $3.8 billion, that's a lot of money. Additionally, the April 2024 security supplemental included $8.7 billion for Israel. That is nuclear-armed Israel. And during the recent 12-day war, the U.S. used 15 to 20% of our terminal high-altitude area defense missiles stockpiles defending nuclear-armed Israel, which cost us over $800 million. The $500 million provided in this bill will fund Israel's, that is nuclear-armed Israel's, missile defense system, the Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow system. Yet Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. That's a pretty big deterrent for any of their enemies. Any nation that has a nuclear bomb has the greatest threat against their enemies. U.S. aid typically accounts for 15 to 20% of Israel's defense budget, even though Israel, nuclear-armed Israel, has universal health care for their citizens and subsidized college for their citizens.
Well, MTG, Are you going to start supporting single payer health care?
No, she won't, but she just doesn't want us to be funding it for Israel, which I completely agree with that premise. And I want to address Underhill in the chat because I do not know whether or not she is pro-nuke or not pro-nuke. She very well might want Israel to nuke Iran.
I've never heard her say anything like that.
No, but I think why she's doing that, and I think this is a key point, and I think the reason she keeps saying nuclear armed Israel is because that is often overlooked by people. Not just that Israel has nukes, but they're not supposed to. So they have nukes against all sorts of international law and regulation. And that is something that she is pointing out that I do appreciate, because people need to know that Israel has nuclear weapons because they're not supposed to.
No,
they're not supposed to. It's in violation of international regulations on nukes. So they did it secretly. They're not supposed to have it. And yet we know they do. So her doing that is kind of pleasing to me. Also, the fact that she is implying that, well, by her doing that, whether she means to or not, it's saying, well, why is it okay for them to call out Iran for having a nuclear program when they have nuclear weapons? So her motives for doing it, I don't know, but I don't mind it. But I don't think that automatically makes her saying she wants Israel to nuke Iran. What she's saying is Israel has enough of their own shit. They don't need our support anymore.
And we will bring our esteemed guest in 1 minute.
Okay.
But what I will say is that I think with Marjorie, I think if you're looking at it from an underhanded standpoint, listen, Trump is only going to be there for so much longer. And there are going to be people who are going to be seeking their opportunity to become the next leaders, if you will, much like AOC and Jasmine Crockett are trying to do with the Democrats right now. Marjorie is seeing her opportunity as one of the next de facto leaders of the MAGA movement. That is her. If you're looking for a roundabout, underhanded component to what she's trying to do here, I do think that there is some truth to that. But I also think some people are just frankly sick of Israel, and they're just sick of all the BS.
That's what I think it is mostly with her. And a lot of the things with the GOP people that they don't want to be dealing with this is because they want to focus all their anger and attention on China. And that is something that they are seeking to do. And I've seen that actually on both sides. That's like they're all sort of like, chomping at the bit to get to China.
Indeed. We'll finish it up.
They're able to provide that. However, here in America, we're $37 trillion in debt. My amendment to strike $500 million in foreign aid will ensure an America First Department of Defense. And that is exactly what we need, and we haven't had for a very long time. Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
Yeah, Underhill, we're not fans of Marjorie Taylor Greene. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the original people in the CUNT club that I've had here during story time. And CUNT, if anybody is interested, is Congresswomen in Urgent Need of Teaching. And the CUNT club has had a lot of prestigious members, but she is one of them. So do not think that we somehow are like cheerleading for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay.
Before we bring in Clint, I just want to read this post that we dropped last night that I think pretty much sums up this entire situation here, especially when Jen talks about the fact that there really is no populist left. There's the woke left, but there really isn't a populist
Exactly.
left.
Exactly.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene's time in Congress can best be described like this: controversial and obnoxious, yet fearless. She is the one GOP rep besides Thomas Massie who has truly stood up to the Israel lobby's stranglehold over our political discourse. Today, she submitted an amendment. Colin, if you will, please. Today, she submitted an amendment to the latest spending bill that would have cut $500 million in additional military aid to Israel. She said the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people was one of the primary drivers. Massie and progressive Dems, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Summer Lee, and Al Green were the only other reps who voted yes. This is why we hold Zoran Mamdani's feet to the fire. We do not want him to make unforced errors like AOC does for career opportunism. AOC didn't vote no on the amendment because she supports Israel or dislikes MTG. She voted no because she's a political opportunist. In her calculation, the political waters are not safe yet to take a firm stand against Israel. In our calculation, this is the most cowardly move in a string of cowardly moves from a person who seeks to take real power in the Democratic Party. Remember this moment when she seeks your support for Senate or president. And that is the bottom line.